Good evening, everybody. Another Thursday's coming around. Welcome to Talkin Torque. My name's Colin Livingston. So much to go over here over the last week. F1 is finding new ways to mess up perfectly good shows with red flags. IndyCar put on just a damn good show last weekend in Texas after a bunch of years of stinkers. And, our professional friends over at NASCAR keep finding new ways to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and confusing situations. And we'll go back and start off in F1. For those of you who didn't see, really awesome race that was just undone in the closing laps, where the end result, 7 different teams managed to finish in the top 10. I don't know the last time that happened. And there was potential for more, just the way that things shook down. Again, really disappointing. There was an incident towards the end of the race. Kevin Magnussen tagged the wall, lost a wheel, actually resulted in a fan getting hurt with a chunk of the wheel ending up in the flying up, by all reports, 20 meters in the air, landing, cutting the guy. The disappointing thing was that somebody actually stole the chunk of wheel that actually, as they say, lacerated his arm. He walked away with minor injuries. But that being said, F1 throws the red flag to get the car out of the way, trying to seemingly emulate NASCAR, where we're never going to finish under a caution. They go to restart after a lengthy delay. And the problem was, you got cold tires, you got cold brakes, and you've got a setting sun directly in the driver's eyes. And as every single driver that spoke, aside from Lewis and Max Verstappen, the eventual winner, all the drivers talked about, like, either our brakes locked or we didn't have any brakes when we got to the corner, because the combination, these tires need to be hot to work, and so do the brakes. And to do these standing starts, there was one mid-race. Max Verstappen had a decent lead, George Russell had a decent lead. There was a caution when I think it was Alex Albon spun out, brought a bunch of gravel onto the track, triggered a bunch of cars to come down pit road. They made legitimate yellow flag, safety car pit stop. And then suddenly after that, the series decided to throw the red flag, which meant that all the guys that didn't pit managed to maintain or increase their track position. And then they were able to make their pit stop under red flag, which, the one thing that NASCAR does better than anyone is you don't touch the car under a red flag condition. F1, you can fix the damage that caused the red flag. You can change tires. You can adjust your car. You can do whatever you want, which makes no sense. But towards the end of the race, it was catastrophic for most of the drivers, namely Carlos Sainz. He was probably the biggest victim, where he got to turn one, tried to slow his car down, made contact with Alonso. It would have ended Alonso's day effectively, because he would have come out last. Alonso was able to reposition himself after the red flag was flown, because they said they didn't make it to one of the scoring loops, so they went back to the original position, but then implemented a 5-second penalty on Sainz for avoidable contact, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Any other time a driver makes contact on a start like that, they generally deem it as a racing incident. Logan Sargent was the last car on the grid when they got to turn one. He came from a mile back, locked his brakes up, and nerfed another car, didn't get a penalty. Carlos Sainz was in the middle of the corner and just made incidental contact with Alonso on a side pod. Very, very disparaging application of the rules. Very, very different interpretations, and it's something that F1 is definitely going to have to look at. But I am extremely excited to bring in a very good friend of mine from the world of the NASCAR Pinty series. He is the official announcer at Oshweek Speedway. as well as one of the people behind GeForceTV.net. Want to bring in one of the voices of NASCAR, Mr. Adam Ross. How are you doing, man?
Colin, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I know you're great. That's why I've got you here. You're
You're
gonna.
so kind.
I get to be great by association. Just having, last week we had Dominic Fougere, and now I got you. So at the very least, I can create the impression that I can rub elbows with some of the bigwigs in Canadian motorsports.
Dominic's a tough act to follow. He is a gregarious. Is that the word we'd use for Dom? Just a great guy.
It might be a French thing because he, in a lot of ways, is like another French guy that I know named Tagliani that, I don't even have to ask a question. I can just kind of wind him up a little bit and then he can just run off for the next 10 minutes. So it makes it really easy for a guy like me that's a, relative, not even a broadcaster. I'm a rookie question asker. And, where they do all the heavy lifting and I just get to sit back and we had a lot of great questions. You're definitely this is not a tough act to follow, man. You've got an awful lot of things that we're going to be able to talk about here over the next little bit. First of all, how's this off season been for you?
Really long, Colin. They get longer and longer every year. I don't understand why, because time keeps moving faster the older I get. But these off seasons are extremely long. Canadian motorsports is challenging. Well, I shouldn't generalize like that because there's motorsports that happen in the wintertime. Canadian outdoor pavement racing is really challenging because you get hyped up and the passion is there. And from the May long weekend until late September, you are all out full time. It's all we think about. And then the off season hits and you just kind of hibernate. You shut it down and just coast. We cruise until opening day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you on the broadcast side, but I work as a spotter. I still race my go-kart as a driver. I do all this broadcasting through radio and now this podcast. There's an awful lot of racing in my world, but by the end of the season, I'm ready for it to be over. We push right to the very end, and then it's like, okay, I can get back to kind of normal life. And it's about 7 to 10 days, 10 to 14 days. And it's like, this is going to be a long winter. And by this time of the year, we're getting pretty itchy. I don't know what the weather's like out there. I mean, right now I can tell you it's about +6. So we're melting really nice. There's not a lot of snow left aside from in shaded areas. So it really, really starts to feel like it's getting time.
Yeah, it's getting real, right? The snow melts, the pavement's dry outside. We're almost ready to go. The track owners need probably 4 weeks, Colin, to get things ready, to get their facilities ready to host people. But yeah, it's time to go racing.
It feels like it. When do you think you think you're about 4 weeks away?
Everyone is different. Every track is different. We've got places around here like Merrittville Speedway and Flamborough Speedway that traditionally open a little earlier than the others. Places like Ashwegan Speedway, I don't think Ashwegan had cars on the track until June last year. So Mother Nature dictates a lot of that.
Just because it takes that much longer to prep the dirt track?
Yeah, and on a dirt track, so on a pavement track, you can open up, you can host test nights any night you want. On a dirt track, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to prepare the track for race cars. So you won't do it Monday to Friday, right? You'll have a practice night, which is usually on a Friday night, and the next night is opening night. Well, if you get inclement weather, it ruins things. And last year, it just seemed like a series of consecutive weeks where the weather wasn't right. If I remember correctly, they did a practice night either the Wednesday or Thursday night before the track opened on the Friday night, just because people needed to get on the racetrack and shake things down.
Yeah, I mean, our go-kart track, it's likely ready. We've got aside from this year, the kart track would be ready to go now, but we're at least a month away because we need the paddock to dry out.
Mm-hmm.
Until that's ready. I mean, we start hauling, even just pickup trucks and passenger vehicles, let alone the trailers, the paddock is destroyed. So, that's the big thing. I mean, obviously the go-kart track is paved, but yeah, it's still going to be a while yet. I don't know what what EIR schedule is, but they should be getting fairly close. I mean, their paddock is a little bit more resilient to the runoff, but anyway, one of the things I try and get across through this show is that, while we spend so much time racing, we we have real jobs. I own a manufacturing business called Cantork. You have a real life outside of racing. So what like, just shed a little light on what it is that you do Monday to Friday when you're not at the racetrack.
So I'm an account manager for Cal Tire in Stony Creek, Ontario. I enjoy it. It's a fun career. I sold Hino trucks for 10 years, and 2 years ago switched over to Cal Tire, and it's been quite a trip. And I'm quite proud, Colin, because the travel that's involved with our series. It takes me about 5 vacation days to commit to the entire NASCAR Pinty series. For all the races that we go to. So I'm able to do it all with 5 vacation days and get across the country, get all the places that we need to get to put on a show.
So I would think the majority of those 5 days are split between the Western Swing and St. John's.
Yeah, Saskatoon is 3 days because it's a Wednesday show. 2 days you can do Saskatoon and St. John's is a day, and I forget where I spend the other day. Even when it comes to the Ush weekend shows, I generally work those days, or at least half a day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot. Now, you say you're a commercial accounts manager.
My official title
What the hell is that?
Regional account manager. So my biggest customer is the city of Hamilton, Colin.
Right.
They have 2,300 assets with tires on them. So we have the contract, everything from a little lawnmower up to a garbage truck and earth movers that they own. So an account like that is something that I would manage. And
it sounds like a lot of need for torque tools.
Right? I mean, the opportunity is there. Get in there.
I would think so. Well, I mean, we know the folks out here quite well. There's a lot of national accounts that get set up, so it makes it very tough for us. But keep in mind that we are a Canadian-based manufacturer, and would be more than happy to help you guys out if any of your existing suppliers let you down.
You know as well as anyone, Colin. I don't care what you sell, what you build, what you do. It's all about people. It's all about networking. So you can take anything that you do in any enterprise, bring it to the motorsports community, and use that networking, use your relationships. And you still need to have a good product. You still need to have a fair price, but people want to do business with people they're comfortable with. So I enjoy the getting to have a regular job. In my younger days, I tried to make it in motorsports, doing some PR, doing some marketing, and it just wasn't a stable way to support my family.
Yeah, understood. Hamilton is an area I've spent not quite enough time yet. We stay there generally when we race at, let me think about it. Jesus, why am I drawing a blank? It's not Delaware. What's the other track out there? Not Ush Weekend, because I stay, last year I stayed in the motorhome.
Jukasa.
That was the other one. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
But my family is quite seriously connected to Hamilton, thanks to the HMCS Haida, which is docked at the naval port.
Yes. Yeah.
My grandfather served on the Haida in World War II.
Oh, wow.
And while I will not display it, I have the Haida tattooed on the back of my shoulder here.
That's awesome. You know, Hamilton's a great city. It gets a tough rap because it's an easy target, but it's a great city. Passionate people.
Try being from Western Canada. Try being from Edmonton, and let me hear about what people's impressions of the city are.
You know what? It's such an honor, privilege to be able to travel the country with the NASCAR Pinty Series and visit all of these different places that otherwise, Colin, I probably wouldn't get a chance to visit, whether it's Saskatoon, Edmonton, Vernon, BC, when we used to go out there, Halifax, Antigonish, Nova Scotia, St. John's, Newfoundland, all these spots in Quebec and Ontario. There are a lot of preconceived notions in Canada about certain cities. They're almost entirely wrong, except for the fact that the maritime cities are the most welcoming and friendly people you will ever meet. But a lot of the negative preconceptions people have, whether it's towards certain areas of Quebec or all of Quebec, whatever, they're not true.
No.
I mean, we meet amazing people, have a lot of fun. And NASCAR took over in 2007. So we've been going to some of these places for more than 15 years. So I feel like I'm a part of Saskatoon. I visit there for a few days every summer and take it in, right? All of these places that we go back to over and over again. It's pretty special.
Yeah. I mean, I would just kill, like, honestly, no disrespect to my home track here at EIR. We've got a wonderful relationship with them. It's a super fun track. You get to see everything, but man, I would just kill to get back to Riverside. The Chisholm family, Don, the whole staff out there, that is without question the greatest oval in Canada. No disrespect to Jukasa back when it was still opening. That was the best fast oval that we had.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Riverside, man, we had some great races out there.
Yeah, we did. And it's a special place. That's the fun. If all the tracks were the same, there would be no reason to go to Edmonton. There would be no reason to go to Saskatoon on a Wednesday night. They all have different character. They all have different attributes. I miss Barrie Speedway. And I mean, especially for racing purists, especially, we had people come into the series like Andrew Ranger, Alex Tagliani, LP Dumoulin. None of them liked Barrie Speedway. It is like nothing they had ever experienced before.
Yeah.
But
we had some interesting races at Barrie for sure.
Oh, you know what? It teaches the driver killer instinct, that's for sure.
Yeah. We could go back there and I know we could run very, very well. But Barrie's awesome. I mean, we kind of go on and off with Sunset. I'm really glad to be going back there. I mean, we've had pretty good success there with 2 wins. Alex lapped the field the one year. We always seem to run well there.
The most boring race I've ever had to call in the NASCAR Pinty Series, and I'm not sure if I should be saying this because I love. There is nobody who speaks more highly about the NASCAR Pinty Series than I do. I love it. I love almost everything about it. That race at Sunset Speedway when Tagliani lapped the field was very challenging to keep exciting. It was exciting. It got to the point where, oh my goodness, how far can he go with this? But at the same time, it was like, my goodness, this voice needs a break. We need a yellow. We need something.
Oh.
But
I don't know if you remember how much you remember that race, because towards the end, probably I want to say about the last 60 or 70 laps, we had Hathaway. We had just passed Hathaway, and it's not a big secret. I say it's not a big secret that we haven't always had the best relationship with the 3 car. Once Brett Taylor got in it, it became a different story. But we couldn't figure out what he was doing for the longest time because we didn't know if he was making a run at us to try and cause that yellow or what was going on. And finally, we got word from his spotters like, listen. He's not trying to take you out. He's just trying to stay with you so that he can be the car positioned if there's a caution to be the first one a lap down. It's like, oh, okay. So we were able to relax there a little bit. And obviously we know how everything panned out, but that was a fun race. What's really, really cool though, and we'll kind of transition to another area here, is you do the live broadcast at most of our races. You have a couple exceptions that you're not there, so we get to hear, I mean, when I've got my headset on, I don't really get to hear you aside from during cautions, but you're doing the live broadcast during the race and then you do an overdub of the race afterwards.
Yeah, sort of a behind the curtain look, and I'm not sure. I mean, it's common knowledge that, yeah, none of our races are shown live on TSN. They're shown on a 1 week tape delay. And nobody does a better job than Joel Robinson and Fuel Media Lab with their post-production of NASCAR events, because there are different series who do something similar, but nobody ties them all together as well as Joel does. So we do go into a studio and call those races again, so it makes a better product for television.
Well, because when you're doing the broadcast live, I mean, this isn't a big secret, and I apologize if I showed a hand that I wasn't supposed to, but this isn't new knowledge to me, but you can't record the audio from the event, because in a lot of cases you're sitting in a not even a plywood box. You don't have any sound protection from the track to where the studio is. You've got no isolation at all. So if you were trying to broadcast that, it wouldn't sound proper.
And we don't know when Todd Lewis or Clinton Jeffrey are doing their interviews pit side. Those are recorded live on the spot.
Yeah.
And they get plugged into the broadcast. So Dave Bradley and myself don't get to hear those until we do the call of the race. So there's a lot of things that come together very organically, but it is a seamless production. The calls, the throws to commercial break and coming back from commercial break, obviously you don't do that in a live show. So Two different animals, but I have, in my experience, I can get into just as much trouble with either one.
How long does it take
to do the voiceover?
Yeah.
On a good day, it takes maybe 90 minutes. On a bad day, maybe it takes 150 minutes.
Yeah. And it's not for you, it's for Dave, right?
I'm not going to comment on that. Because Dave is a professional. Okay, Dave Bradley is a professional broadcaster, professional commentator. He knows what he's doing. He knows what it's supposed to sound like. I am a sidekick. So it's not that I don't make mistakes. And I think Joel, how did Joel say this last year? Your mistakes seem authentic. I'm like, yeah, because I make a lot of them. So they kind of leave some of my flubs in the broadcast.
Ever since I started voicing my own commercials, I've learned to appreciate really good voices and really good deliveries. And unfortunately, he's not here to stand up for himself, but I've got to say that Dave's voice, I've heard him do commercials, like whether it's our Pinty's series commercials that he just gets hired to do the voiceover. I've heard other commercials. I'll tell you what, I'm a fairly straight guy, but there is a tendency when I hear Dave's voice that, man, he is sexy.
Tell you a couple of stories about Dave Bradley. He's amazing. And when he does something, it's just so very good. That's why he does all the intros, things like that. When he reads a script, it sounds like he's talking. When I read a script, and Joel will say this to me, Adam, it sounds like you're reading. Stop doing that. Like, well, I am reading. That's why you put the script on paper. I don't know what the trick is. I have never learned it. But to Joel's credit, he gives us these scripts, which is kind of a guideline that nothing is scripted, but we need to touch on this, and this. But he knows very well that I won't use it.
Yeah.
Dave will read his word for word and deliver it naturally and beautifully. And I will hopefully hit on at least 30% of the points that Joel wanted me to hit on, and he'll be satisfied with that. But the first time, so you go into these studios and you have another fun fact. For the longest time, we used the same sound studio that they used for Paw Patrol. So there were big stars in these studios. So you've got the big headset on and a music stand to kind of hold up your paperwork and to make notes. And we're watching a TV that's out in front of us. And the first time we did it, it's go time. Dave Bradley starts off. And I'm like, God, is that you? Like, I just had the biggest voice in my head. It was like James Earl Jones barking in my headset. When it came my turn to talk, I just stood there with my mouth open.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're going to have to do this over again. I was kind of awestruck at how powerful his voice and his delivery is, but it is very good.
It is unbelievably good.
Mhm.
Like, and his voice, it's so unique. It just sounds like racing to me. One of the things, and I'll pass along the lesson that I've been told so many times, if you want a friendly tip from your pal CL, when you're reading a script, study the script so you have an idea what's on it, but you have to smile.
Yes. Yeah,
You
you're
have to
absolutely
smile,
right.
and it feels wrong, and it sounds fugazi, but if you smile while you're reading, it comes across in your delivery.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of coaching. I don't want to say teaching back in but some coaching. And that was one of the things that we coach. People will always be able to tell when you're smiling, and that's what you want to exude, unless you're cussing somebody out, in which case react accordingly.
Well, I can do that while I smile too.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, sometimes it's enjoyable enough. Um, and I think you've got some of the clips, and I'm not running your show, so I certainly can't.
We'll
But
get there.
I don't like the sound of my voice. I think it's fine. Uh,
Honestly, I love the sound of your voice, and specifically when you get excited. Like, I mean, you're pretty excited all the time, but as cars are going around, it's hard to talk about, and so is following so and so. But when shit hits the fan, you have a delivery for it. I mean, whether I don't want to say limit to our series, but it's the only exposure I have to your broadcasting because I don't get to hear you at Oshweekend, is unbelievable. It is very magnetic and very, very attractive. Like,
yeah. Well, thank you.
that's actually kind of a contradiction.
Ah,
The opposite pole magnetic attraction. Like,
right. I
it's really
understand.
good. And we'll hear a bit of that. I will roll one of the intros. I'm going to pick a very selfish one that I get to feature just a whisker in.
Perfect.
You want to
I
you want to do that now, or you want to respond
we'll
and then we
get
can
to it.
roll it?
We'll get to it. I I love what I get to do, and I know what I want to do with my energy, with my enthusiasm, and it's a style I committed to right from the start. Like this is who I want to be. This is what I want to put across. Still don't like to hear it. You know what I mean? I know
I
what I
do,
want to do, and
100%.
I'm comfortable that I do a good enough job that I don't get fired very often. But I'll quite often watch our races and turn the volume down if not all the way off. But having said that, I'm proud of the work we did that Joel used in the promotional video for the series.
Yeah, it was great. So I got to ask, because I think you and I have similar defects, personality defects. You don't like it because, like, I shouldn't answer the question that I'm about to ask you. I hate, one of the things,
Yeah,
I'm a big Howard Stern fan, but he does that a lot. He asks a question, then answers it, that the person has to either agree or disagree with them. And I'm not saying that to be confrontational. What is it about listening back to your voice that you don't like?
I think to put it in terms that I think people could relate to, Colin, it's a lot like looking in the mirror. Most people look in the mirror and they're much more critical of themselves than anybody else they encounter.
But critical of what?
Critical anything, you're so vulnerable, right? From a sound standpoint, all you have are the sound of the cars, Dave Bradley, myself. You're putting yourself out there every time you do a broadcast. So I don't know. Truthfully, I would probably have to ask a psychologist. But
Interesting. See, I know why I hate listening back. Like, unless there's something, like, because we're part of this Crier Media group and I have this great multimedia digital marketing group, they love these things, but they want me to go back and like timestamp everything and then like send a little note like, okay, here we talked about this and here we talked about that. I can't do it, because when I listen back, or I watch back in this case, all I see are my mistakes. I hear my pauses where it's like, or and it drills into my head that I hear the mistakes. I hear where I used the wrong word. I forgot to do something. Whether people notice or not, I don't know. But that's what I hear. And that's for me why I can't listen back. I mean, everybody else should listen because it's super entertaining, but that's why I can't.
yeah, I don't know what it is. So with the stuff we do with G-Force, I've been partners with Clinton Jeffrey for 25 years on work we've done in racing. He does post-production work. He does editing. I don't. I'm just a buffoon with a microphone. That's pretty much what I do. So he'll put so many more hours into these projects than I will, and then put them online or put them wherever it is we're going to put them. Hey, did you watch this? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
We did it. It's done. What are we doing next? I very rarely go back to watch again.
One of our good friends here, Positive Mike of Positive Mike's Brewing, we'll have to introduce you when you come back out this year. He wants to know, and this is a very, 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 very common question: will Pinty's races ever be broadcast live?
Well, that's a multifaceted question. They are streamed live every event, so you can watch them on the TSN app or on Flow Sports. It is a different production than you'll get when you see it on TSN. There have been races broadcast live on TSN. There was always problems, and they were problems that would never come up unless you were broadcasting them live. I think one event, the track got oiled down. There was a delay of about 40 minutes. I remember once at Motorsports way back when, it might have been the first year in 2007, there was a wreck down at the end of the straightaway where Joey Hansen, they almost thought they needed to cut him out of the car. I believe they had to preempt that show. There's challenges with live television, and there's expenses with live television that make it almost prohibitive.
Yeah, the only ones that I know, I mean, obviously streaming, we know of that. The only ones that I know of is we'll get a live feed during when we used to run Canadian Tire with the trucks, because the crew was already there and it could kind of be piggybacked. And GP3R is the other one. It doesn't go out over TSN, it goes over RDS, but that one is a live broadcast.
Yep. And it's a good one. And that one does have the budget to make it happen. So, yeah, I highly encourage you to watch that, especially if you understand French. If you don't, it's just fun to listen to how excited they are.
They do get excited, especially like last year's race when it came down to the second to last corner where the brothers took each other out.
Wild. That was a wild
crazy.
show.
Now, I want to know, and I actually don't know this. You and I actually have spent a lot of time. We're legitimately friends outside of racing. We've traveled between cities together. You've come to some of our personal events. But I don't know the answer to this question. How did you get into racing?
My parents met at Oswego Speedway in 1968. So mom had driven race cars. Dad had owned race cars and worked on race cars. So it was sort of in my blood from the start. And I just always had the bug for it. I just love the sport, love the lifestyle, and I couldn't afford to do it. I did some racing. I raced karts. I ran open wheel modifieds for a couple of years, and money ran out, but I didn't want to leave the sport. So I found a way to stay involved, and here we are 25 years later, still playing the game.
You'd work way better as security than as a driver. For people who don't know, you are somewhat dimensionally challenged for most racing applications.
Yeah, I'm kind of Shrek sized, if you want to give something that you could visualize it against. So yeah, I take up a lot of space.
Very similar personality too.
Yeah, right. That's why I kind of adopted that comparison.
I like it a lot.
Ago. Yeah, it
now,
works.
Let's talk a little bit about GeForce TV. It's something, I actually don't have television service, so I don't subscribe to any of the feeds. For me to watch racing, I've got to go online. I've got to buy subscriptions to either F1 or to whatever, but you guys stream a lot of racing and have a lot of really good programming.
Yeah, we're really proud of what we've put together. So GeForce TV was something that we started at Ohsweken Speedway, and the core team we have there is excellent. Like the only announcer I think that could compete with Dave Bradley to be considered the best would be Greg Kalman, the fellow I work with at Ohsweken Speedway. Just absolutely fantastic. We have Spencer, who is a phenomenal producer. Of course, we have Clinton Jeffrey. and myself. And a few years ago, we just kind of thought about, what would it be like if we took our show on the road? Go down the highway to Flamborough Speedway or somewhere else, because at Ashweekend we were already incorporating a multi-camera production where you've got multiple announcers, multiple cameras, live switching. It was becoming a good production. And as much as 2020 was one of the worst years of my life professionally, uh, the pandemic really helped GeForce TV get off the ground, because it was the only way to deliver motorsports to an audience, was to be able to stream it live. The competitors could come out, but the fans couldn't, and it just sort of catapulted us into opportunities.
Yeah, it's great. For people who don't know, again, Oshweekon is a dirt track, running, typically sprint cars. You guys have a version of a late model out there?
Yeah, we call them
Okay.
Thunderstocks. So some tracks might call them bombers. Very entertaining. So V8 powered stock cars.
I will go back. You and I had a number of conversations privately. I will throw myself under the bus. I've been very, very, very vocal about why, I believe that NASCAR should not, and specifically our Pinty series should not be racing on dirt. It didn't make any sense to me. We went and did the race last year, and I have to say, without any hesitation, I was so wrong that I think we put on a pretty good show for a bunch of guys who don't race on dirt. We, at the same account, we don't put on nearly the show as a field of sprint cars running 3 and 4 wide, 30 miles an hour faster than us. But I think we did okay. I don't know what the fan feedback was, but it was the first time in my life that, first of all, I was able to call 5 wide, and it was the first time that we went more than 3 wide that I didn't care. We could do it. Like, we just knew that it was fine.
You had to understand, if you wanted to enjoy it, you had to embrace what it was. And it was a bunch of cars that weren't built to be raced on a dirt track, but they're perfectly capable. Going out there, and as you say, were they setting the world on fire in terms of top speed? Well, not if you put a sprint car out beside it that's built to be on that racing surface, but there was phenomenal action. You're going to see how well it was received, Colin, this year when the crowds are even bigger, because I didn't hear from anybody, and this is not an official poll, but I didn't hear from anybody who was there who isn't itching to go back and see some more of it.
And that's 100% testament to Glenn Stiers and Clinton Jeffrey, which were the 2 guys that I saw doing, more than anyone. The difference between a shitty event, a mediocre event, and an event like we had is the hospitality that we're shown. Sometimes we go to a track, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but we're made to feel like we're not really welcome there. We don't really get any instruction. We don't really know where we're supposed to set up this, what we can do for that. Clinton and Glenn could not have done enough for us. They made us feel like super appreciated. The story I keep telling is the next day, we weren't able, and first of all, my race night did not end until about 5:30 in the morning. I ended up hanging out with Stuart Friesen for a while, and then oh boy, why am I drawing a blank when I don't need to? But we ended up staying up just BSing for hours and hours and hours. Yes, there was some drinking involved, but that's not what we were doing. We were just getting after it. Matthew Scannell, sorry about that, Matthew. He and I were the last ones up. Finally got to bed about 6 o'clock in the morning. I was up by about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we open up, we're getting ready to shut the motorhome down. We're getting ready to move to wherever we had to go next. And I said, I don't believe what I'm looking at. And, Amanda's there with me. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at that guy. She's like, yeah. So what? He's picking up garbage. I'm like, no, That's Glenn Stiers. This is his place. And he's out there in shorts and t-shirt, like crack ass the next morning, picking up the litter that everyone else couldn't be bothered and just making the place immaculate. That in one little microcosm capsule told me everything I needed to know about Glenn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a huge pride factor for all of us who work at Ashweekend, because we welcomed thousands of people who would have never considered coming to that track. We have a phenomenal family and community every Friday night to come out and watch dirt sprint car racing, and we embrace each other. Fabulous. Let's have a good time. But this specific event was the opportunity to welcome a lot of people who had only ever heard about what goes on there and had not experienced it. So to bring those people out, and it all starts with Glenn Stiers and Clinton Jeffrey, and of course Tina Stiers. It was a huge deal to all of us that people felt welcome, and they get a real sense of the kind of show that gets put on at Ashweekend Speedway, because it is a much different show than you'll see almost anywhere. Shouldn't say that. It's a much different show than you see at almost any paved track in the country. A lot of dirt tracks kind of model their nights the same way. It's a fast-moving, fast-paced show. You get through a lot of action in one night.
I can't stress it enough, though. The show was great. The facility is incredible. Forget about the track, because the track's a track and it doesn't matter. We raced at Flamborough, which is probably the least suited oval to our cars, maybe next to, Wetaskiwin. They're just small and tight and there's not a lot of room.
Yeah, they're tough.
The facilities there were just unbelievable, from the garage. And it's like, finding out, okay, well, once you guys leave, we're going to start paving all this, so this isn't going to be dirt anymore for you guys to be on.
Mm-hmm.
The campground, I don't know, do you know the number of the campers that we were able to, I mean,
Hundreds.
I was going to say thousands. Like, I mean, it was probably 1,000 campers between the lots. There wasn't a space left for, as far as I saw. We had the main lot completely packed, and then there was the secondary lot. Yeah. And these were all like big motorhome, full coaches, multi-compound. The only thing that was even close through the year that I saw was a Delaware. Like the city that gets built outside of the track is just ridiculous at Delaware.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there.
But the facility, for anyone who's thinking like you want to come to a race, you're either in the GTA, maybe you want to travel, you cannot go wrong at Ashweekend. Like, without question. I don't have enough thumbs to properly rate it, but yeah, Glenn, Clinton. I unfortunately I didn't meet Tina, but you do a great job on the PA. But Clinton, man, he was running around like a lunatic trying to help everyone as we're all parking and we need this and we need that, and can I help with this? Like, it was just unbelievable. And for us, we had an especially bad lead up to that. I had a lot of damage to my trailer. I had the ramp door rip off. I had a whole bunch of nonsense. So to get a friendly face at the end of a very long, by that point I think we were about 3,400K into our drive, it meant a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we get, for all the talk we're doing about Ashweekend, there's a number of places we go where the hospitality is fantastic, but you notice different things about the different places that we visit. They're all unique, right down to the fans, the atmosphere. It's every place is a little bit different, and they all stand out for their own different reasons.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any place I don't like going. There's things I really enjoy about everywhere we go. There are things that I take a look at from either a race fan or as a competitor that I want to see fixed. The jersey barriers that we see at St. John's. I hope when we come back there that we don't have an incident again like LP had to go through, where a wheel ripped off and he went plowing into the wall between turns 3 and 4. That's the kind of stuff we have to make sure that we avoid. But you get to see so many up and comers. You get to see, kids that are learning on dirt. You get to see, people coming up through our series. Obviously, money is as important as talent to see where you go? Who's someone that you've seen that you were sure were going to make it that just, either didn't have the money to become, top dog, or they just lost interest at some point?
Boy, that's a good question, and you're going to think I'm crazy with my answer.
Me too.
Fair enough. Andrew Ranger. He made it, and then he came back to our series. But that man has more talent that he could have stepped up at any time, and he just figures it out. Andrew Ranger should have climbed the ladder of stock car racing, even though he came from Champ Car Series, so he had already seen great success. There's someone with just natural ability like I've never seen. There's other people, there's other drivers you can speak to on that, like Caden Lapsevich, but there were things about each of them that were not limiting factors. But you say, okay, I can see where this person might have stalled out, or I can see where this one didn't get the opportunity. But Andrew Ranger, I don't get it. Like there should have been opportunity for his talent alone to do the talking. And,
so what do you think the difference was?
Planning and probably having the right business partner or business model or vision. And I could be so off base. Maybe he has done exactly what he wanted to do. Maybe, I think Andrew Ranger makes a decent living doing what he does. So it's not fair for me to suggest that someone wanted to get farther. But the NASCAR Pinty Series is the best stock car racing you're going to find anywhere. I would take our road racers and put them up against cup racers. If you were to put them in equal equipment,
no question.
Like they're better than the Truck Series racers. They're better than the as a whole. Like we have elite level racers.
100%.
For some reason, the NASCAR Pinty Series isn't where youngsters go to make their name. Like it's not where Rafael Lessard went when he wanted to make it to the top. He went down south and took that route, and then he wound up back with us. Alex LeBay would be the only one who really kind of came through us as a real stepping stone.
Aside from a guy like DJ.
Yeah, and DJ again had all these opportunities, but without ever missing a NASCAR Pinty Series race.
Yeah,
he ran a lot of Xfinity stuff.
There's a guy like Daryl Haar who cut his teeth in CASCAR West, made it down to Winston West and did the K&N stuff. It's all, for me, it's very simple. It comes down to money, and it's very, very, very hard for a driver who has cut their teeth and been supported by Canadian companies to try and bring that sponsorship down to the States, where you don't get it in front of Canadian customers. You don't get in front of the Canadian people. It takes a really unique company that actually can do business in the States and can capitalize on that, because why would you take your sponsor dollars and, have your driver, running in Bloomfield, Illinois, where you can't actually capitalize on it? So that to me is the big thing. If there was, you take any of our drivers from the top 15 in our series and put them in any car, I don't care if it's in the Truck Series Xfinity Cup, they're going to run competitively for what that car will do.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt in my mind.
The late, great Bobby Hamilton, Cup racer, Truck Series owner, we used to do his fire suits for him when I worked at Leaf Racewear. And I remember conversations with him where he actually said, it is easier to take a driver who has never raced stock cars on a short track and turn them into a truck racer, Xfinity racer, Cup racer, because of what they're going to experience on the 1 mile ovals, the 1.5 mile, the 2 mile ovals. Short track racers have bad habits that don't carry over well to super speedways.
Yeah.
And I remember being taken aback when he said that, not really offended, just like, well, why are people wasting their time at short? They're not. That's why Stuart Friesen has the most enviable life. Any young racer should look up to Stuart Friesen and say, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
Because he races his dirt modifieds as much as 6 nights a week when he wants to. He goes and runs trucks. He makes a very good living, and he has never had to sacrifice who he is to do it.
I'm going to throw up the, very well said, by the way, I'm going to throw up the 60-second promo. This is one, I'm actually going to throw both up here, hopefully in succession. While this is running, you won't be able to talk or anything. So this will just run for 60 seconds. And this is one of the previews that, our friend Joel and Fuel Media has come up with for the promotion and the lead up to the 2023 NASCAR Pinty Series.
Drivers,
Sometimes
start your engines!
life can get rough. Fire now, but I won't be burned. I was waiting for this and now it's my turn. Sweat on my face, blood in my eyes. Been underground, now I aim for the skies. Now you can last longer.
Oh my goodness! Gang up there on top of each other! Holy moly, what a show!
Who was that at the end there?
Which, the holy moly, what a show.
Holy moly, what a show.
It's the closest thing I have to a catchphrase is holy moly. And I stole it from a former employer of mine.
I have a million of them, but I can use them here because we're not regulated by anything else, but I can't use them in mixed company. The other one, I actually like the shorter one. I like the 30-second spot. You've obviously seen both of these?
Yeah, I'm impressed by both. Like every one of the moments that they feature, I know exactly where they are. I know exactly the moment that they're featuring. And I just love it. I love all the places we go, coming off of turn one at GP3R, spinning in turn one, like we saw Kevin Lacroix doing at CTMP, which is so funny because not much happens in turn one at CTMP, but that synchronized spin was so beautiful to watch. Everything about it excites me.
See, the thing that excites me is that I actually made the broadcast, or I made the promo. And do you know that?
Was that your driver start your engines?
Nope.
Okay, what did I miss?
So I'll roll it here now. It's a 30-second promo. The audio that comes across, bumper, he's on your bumper. That's me. Hold on a second. Yeah, more famouser than Captain Kangaroo. Hold on.
All right, Spanky, fire it up. Let's get the year started.
Drivers, start your engine!
Green.
Whoa, contact with the race leader!
The intensity has picked up a whole nother level.
He's on the bumper.
5 wide out of turn number 4. You can see the level of aggression starting to ramp up. Look at these battles amongst the leaders. Holy moly!
Well, folks, you came looking for a show. Well, here you go.
Holy moly. I love it. That's great work there. Yeah, great job to Joel, everyone that's involved over at Fuel.
Makes you want to go to the races, doesn't it?
And I'm ready to go now. Like it dawned on me because, you talk about how you need 5 vacation days. As a self-employed person, I don't take vacation days, and I don't know how many days I take away from work to do Pinty's races, because no matter, the only one that I don't have to take time off, and I end up taking like 3 or 4 days because we do promotion, is the Wetaskiwin race. Every other race, even if it's Saskatoon, we drive from here to Saskatoon on Tuesday, we race Wednesday, come back Thursday. There's 3 days. Every other race, I have to get on an airplane. Whether it's, sunset, I'll fly out on Friday. We'll race Saturday. I'll probably fly back Sunday. That's, Saturday, Sunday, there's weekends. I've booked a bunch of my hotels, but I haven't booked any of my airfare yet. So before it really starts ratcheting up, I'm going to have to get some of that book. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm going to end up, I'll send Joel a note and make sure that I can use these. I'll post them on my socials. The same question I ask almost everyone else. I'm going to throw it at you. You didn't get prepped with any of these things. So these are all on the fly questions. What is something about what you do or about the NASCAR Pinty series that people misunderstand or that you want to, correct people's impressions?
What is something? Boy, that's a good question.
Thank you.
What is something that is misunderstood? I don't. You know what? Okay, I'm going to be selfish here and talk about myself, because if there's one thing that people think about when they think about what I do and with my announcing and in my talk shows, is that I come across as a know-it-all,
Really?
overly confident. And again, it was a choice I made from the very beginning: is, do you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, or do you want to be, try to be politically correct or try to stay on the fence? And that's not something I've ever tried to do. So I speak with a lot of confidence, because who wants to listen to an announcer if they're not sure of what they're talking about, or if they seem like they're unsure? So I try to speak with a lot of confidence, even if sometimes I'm not necessarily, but try to speak with that conviction, not to be cocky, but to sound self-assured, because that's what that's what I want to put out, and that's the feeling I want people to take in. But what I can't control is how people take that in, or how they perceive that, even though I know how it is in my mind. So I would say, if there is anything, that is it. And probably how much we can't say. People might not be able to appreciate the amount of things that we see, or that we think we see, that I can't say because I don't feel it's right to do so.
Without citing a specific example, what kinds of things would those be?
I cannot tell you what a driver was thinking after an accident has happened. Right? So to say this driver took that driver out. You and I have talked about incidents and had very different takes on how they happened, which is why I have always tried to help people understand what they're about to watch. So if I can see, if it looks to me like Alex Tagliani is much faster than the car in front of him and has been for a while, and we get a yellow flag, hey, keep an eye on the 18 car. Alex has been working on this for quite a while. He's going to want to make something happen here on this restart. And then the restart happens. Let's say the restart happens and Alex goes 3 wide and chaos ensues. Well, we can't say Alex Tagliani just caused that wreck, or this one just caused that. But we've already kind of set the table for what people might want to look for. Draw your own conclusions. Like, I want to get you there. I want to get you to the table, but I'm not going to feed you.
I'm smiling because in a lot of cases, I can hear the broadcast. So when we're at a place like Canadian Tire, obviously when the cars are coming down the front straightaway, going through, we can't hear anything. But by the time they get over the hill, go to turn 2 and 3, we're just race fans trying to watch on the TV. And if I hear, and this, if I hear what you're saying and it's like, no, this isn't true, I'll actually pull up my phone and I'll send you a text and say, this isn't what's going on.
Yeah. And I appreciate so much the people who will text me, message me during a race, give me some information, give me some insight. I have no problem, Colin, being wrong. I enjoy a debate. I enjoy being called out, but I'm always going to give you something, right or wrong. I'm going to give you something to chew on, and hopefully it helps you enjoy the experience a little bit more. And sometimes it gets me into trouble, but
Sometimes. But you
Yeah.
guys, like you and Dave are both great at and Todd at kind of patrolling the garage. Engage in a little bit of conversation, see what kind of story you can pick up. It always gets filed away, and then somehow that makes it into the show. You guys do a great job of that because it always comes across as seamless.
We try. Thank you for that. And Joel is a huge help. Some of the bullets that Joel gives us, but it's because it matters to us. All three, Todd Lewis, myself, Dave Bradley, Clinton Jeffrey, it matters to us greatly that we tell a good story. Racing is fantastic on its own, but there's a reason why there's commentators to go along with it. Because the fans don't always get to see what goes into it. And sometimes the fans don't know that DJ Kennington has been up for 20 hours because he drove the hauler to a place, parked it himself at 5 a.m. to get things ready for an 8 p.m. race that night. So to give that kind of information to just, it helps paint the picture and then lets the race fan take in what they're seeing. With a little bit more flavor, right? With a little, when you can
That's
see
what we're
something.
trying. That's what we do here. That's what we try and do. Like what you guys try and do on the broadcast is get people more inside the ropes and get people inside, the inner workings of what's going on. I mean, no one's asked me the question I just asked you, but to give my version of the same answer is how much cooperation there is with everyone within our series, whether it's the broadcast team, whether it's the officials, whether it's the competitors. There's 1,000 stories of people that have helped me out along the way, whether it's obviously Scott is our our team partner, Scott Steckley, with DJ Kennington, Larry Jackson. We all, for the most part, at the very least, we all moderately respect each other across the garage. Because we're competitors and because we're human beings, there's naturally going to be, personality conflicts. But overall, from one end to the other, everyone has some level of respect. And for the most part, we all get along and we actually quite like each other. And I'm hoping throughout the year I get to tell more of these stories because, things like, the time we gave you a ride from Saskatoon back to Edmonton, just because of the way things lined up, and I'm not saying this because I want to, it's just one that I know about, or, when DJ let me park my motor home and my trailer at his place so I could fly home because I didn't have anywhere else to park it, or when, so-and-so did something or something like it every race there's a story like that. And that's what I truly, truly appreciate about our Pinty series.
Yeah. There's a ton of camaraderie and mutual respect. Funny you saying that about parking. I don't know why, but GP3R, which is always a Sunday race, and a lot of us try to get back to work on Monday. I can remember hauling down the highway from GP3R back into Ontario, and you'd stop at one of the service areas and you'd bump into either another race team or another batch of officials. We're all doing the same thing, trying to get ourselves home to get a few hours of sleep. But you stop in, okay, good. I'm glad you're still okay. Good. Yeah, you're still on the road. Everything good? Awesome. See you next race. You pile back into your van or your truck and you make it the rest of the way home. But should someone have a problem, it's amazing the crowds that develop because everybody stops. Hey, what can we do? What needs to be done?
There's never a shortage of people who are willing to help when you need help. Mm-hmm. Is there a series that you would love to cover that you haven't had the opportunity to yet?
No. You know what? I'm doing what I want to do. When I was younger, I wanted to climb the ladder and be the next Dave Moody or whatever the case might be. I'm so satisfied with the work that I'm doing because when I was 8 or 9 years old and all I wanted to do was be at the racetrack, I know how the announcers made me feel to be at Oswego Speedway or Cayuga Speedway or the New York State Fairgrounds to watch dirt modifieds. And looking back, I never dreamed of being an announcer. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a race car driver. But looking back, if I can make an 8 or a 9-year-old feel the way I felt about our sport back then, I'm so content. There's things I'd like to do, sure, but anywhere that I'm going to be this year, there's no place I'd rather be.
Yeah.
You know, on a Friday night at Oshweekend, there is no place I would rather be than right where I am to call the races. Sunset Speedway on May 13th, there is no place I would rather be that day than calling the series opener for the NASCAR Pinty Series this year. I don't always slow down and think about how fortunate that makes me, how lucky I am, but Colin, it's not lip service. When we go to Edmonton that Saturday night, Wetaskiwin, Alberta is exactly where I want to be to call that race, because that's where I feel I'm supposed to be to do what I do as a tiny part of the NASCAR Pinty Series.
Well, and whether you remember or not, about 2018, 2019, see, I'm a big believer in karma, and I'm a big believer in like life balance and things that you give, you get back, and things like that. And I feel like tonight I'm able to finally give something back to you that you gave me a bunch of years ago, when for some reason you decided to ask me to come up into the booth with you outside of turn one at Wetaskiwin and just help, filibuster between sessions. So now I feel like I finally got to give a little bit of repayment back. Hopefully, people will enjoy this. We need to do more of this stuff because, like I told you throughout the week, I did a lot of research, and the problem is I try and research everyone. Like the people that we're inviting onto this thing, I know personally, and I have a pretty good idea who I'm getting at, but there's not a lot. Like, look up Larry Jackson and tell me what you find. There's not a lot out there because we don't get a lot of coverage and we don't have a lot of media. So we need to do more of this stuff so that guys like you and Dave and Joel, and I mean, Todd's obviously, Todd's on another planet when it comes to his recognition compared to the rest of us, because he's done, tons with TSN and Sportsnet, and he does the IndyCar stuff and all that, but we need to do more of this. So I'm glad that I really appreciate, first of all, that you actually said yes. Did a great job tonight. I love your insight. I'm really looking forward to getting back to Sunset, because the thing I know is generally where I stand at Sunset is only about 2 spots away from where you do the broadcast. So unfortunately I can't make a straight line there because there's a big gap between the grandstands, but hopefully I can hear that big sexy voice.
Listen to you. No, I'm honored that you asked me to come on, and I agree with you. There's so many amazing stories that are out there to be told within our series, within our sport in general. And I really cherish what Tony Spiteri brought to the series when Pinty's came on board, because he said, I remember the drivers meeting at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He says, hang on, folks, it's going to be a great ride. We're going to try to make you household names here in Canada. Has that come true? Not necessarily, but promo videos like the one we just saw that go on every NASCAR Cup Series race that airs on TSN, they have put their money where their mouth is, and they've done these things to promote the stars, promote the excitement, promote the sizzle of our series. So
and that's the thing for if anyone's watching and you've never been to a NASCAR Pinty's event, if you have been and it's been a while, just know, like, our drivers are the most accessible drivers in the world of racing, bar none. You will never, if there's a driver that you like within our series, you will have no trouble getting to meet them, whether it's during an autograph session. You'll get a hero card. They'll all take pictures. They'll sign autographs. Like, it doesn't matter what track we're at. It doesn't matter what the event is. You want to meet LP Dumoulin? No problem. He's one of the nicest guys in the garage. You want to meet, next to Larry Jackson, who is without question the nicest guy that's there. We've got so much going on, and hopefully we can, keep building on these crowds that, have definitely rebounded. We've got great venues, and, again, just really looking forward to getting back out. Any closing thoughts, my friend?
I don't think so, Colin. Thanks for having me on. And dream big, folks. If you happen to be watching this and you want to have a podcast of your own, or you want to be a racing broadcaster, or you want to be a race car driver, just if as long as your heart is in it, that's what you need, and that's going to get you in the right direction. So
I can assure everyone watching there is no qualification process to host your own podcast. That is without question. That is not. There's no prerequisites.
no,
It's kind of like when I the requirement when I had to go work at McDonald's was that I actually was able to fill out the application and away I went. So
exactly. But to have the drive and the determination to do it, because it's a big commitment, Colin, and good for you for doing it. And some people put so much effort. You look like you should be hosting a racing podcast. This is where I do most of my work from when I'm home, when we're doing our stuff on GeForce TV. It's a plain wall behind me, sitting on a couch. I got the dog here beside me, and it never looks like a racing set like other people do. It just
this isn't a racing set. This is just my office, and you've been to my office.
I have.
I can't do anything with my camera because it's mounted in my computer. But this is where I work. I'm very fortunate that I have a little bit of equipment here. I've got a little soundboard, and I'm able to make. I think it sounds okay. I think it comes across okay. I just need to get a little bit better at sticking to my my run a script or my run a show and keep on topic and actually try and pay attention to the answers that people give so that I don't re-ask the same question, or I can actually take the answers and pivot to the next topic.
Everyone has to. You got to be true to yourself, though. You do what works. To me, I'm a different person when I'm sitting here answering your questions than the character I play at the races. Much more animated at the races. I'm up on the chip. Here, I can just have a conversation with you, but it is a lot.
What we're doing. We're trying to. Again, the idea behind this thing is that we're trying to bring people inside the ropes and get an idea of what happens that they don't get to see either when they're at the race or when they watch it on TV. And, really this isn't a racing show. It's just been what I focus mostly on because it's, we're getting to race season, but, when we talk about torque, we're also talking about work torque and, hand torque wrenches and, all the rest of it. There's a time and place. The idea is we're trying to do about half of one and half of the other, but I don't think you and I could spend 30 minutes talking about the principles of hydrodynamics and friction and Hooke's law and modulus of elasticity and all that stuff.
I almost fell asleep during that sentence.
That's a lie. I'm very, very engaging. But anyway, man, I'm really looking forward. It's only we're just over a month away from being able to kick off. Hopefully we get some testing in beforehand because we got a lot of new equipment and we got a lot of it's going to be a lot of changes. Do you ever come out and watch the test sessions?
Generally, no. I don't have a good reason why, except that I'm at work, right? So they're usually a weekday.
That sounds like a pretty good reason.
Yeah. I save my time off as much as I can. The other reason, Colin, is I don't believe anything until opening day. I don't believe the rumors of crew people switching teams. Nothing is true until the gates open on opening day. And then I'll see who is crew chief on what car, who is crewing on what car, what changed from last year. There's too many moving parts. There's too much gossip in the off season. I want to wait until opening day, and then I'll put the facts together and we'll go from there.
Without naming a name, just because I don't know why it popped into my head, but I actually do know why, but for the same reason, I won't get you to name a name. Do you have guys, do you have anyone within the series that you don't want to interview or that you can't necessarily stay impartial about because things that you can't talk about?
No, not for that reason. No. I'll name names. Scott Stackley was always the hardest interview because he stunk up more shows by being so good and not making mistakes and not be willing to brag about it. Scott is always down to business, short and straight answers, where I want someone who's going to fly off the chain a little bit or boast a little bit or tell you why things didn't go their way. So there are people there are people that I prefer to interview because they're really going to run with it. I want to be entertaining.
Yeah.
And I always knew Jason White, you put a microphone in front of Jason White, it's going to be something that the fans can bite into and enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's the closest version to John Force that we have.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most of our people are comfortable talking, but you take the Scott Steckleys, the DJ Kenningtons, they do their talking on the racetrack. Having said that,
gotten a lot better at interviews.
He's great.
Yeah.
DJ's a great interview. I still don't think he likes doing it. He does his talking behind the wheel, but my job is to make them talk or encourage them to talk and try to get some fun answers out of them. And I think a lot of racers, their job is to say the things that they need to get said without offending anybody and without throwing out any major opinions. My job is to get them to, I will encourage them to bring out some emotion and put it over
make
the
it as entertaining as possible. And if the conflict is entertaining and, having those rivalries and having, he's not part of the series anymore, but we had a number of we had incidents and then we had a lot of off-track conversations with Joey McComb. And Joey's like, man, I love it. Like, we need to do more of that where we get people engaged and we have, it's okay that we do this kind of stuff on track and that we say these things off track as long as we still get along, but not to stage it. But when you've got something to say it.
Right. And there were people who were very good at that, but they weren't the ones I was getting to talk to at the end of a race because Scott Steckley kept winning the damn things. DJ Kennington kept winning the damn things. And they're very respectful. They're so respectful, saying the things that they need to say and knowing that even though there might have been a heated moment 2 minutes ago, when the microphone's on, that's not the place for it.
And yet the interview that Scott was able to give, I can't remember the year with him and Ranger when they climbed over each other on the back straightaway. That was a great interview by Scott.
Yep. There's been moments.
Yeah.
There's been moments. So anyhow, a little look behind the curtain.
Love it. My man, thank you so much. Again, really looking forward to getting back to the track, seeing you. Obviously a long season. We're going to have lots of chance for debauchery. And, don't be shy. Anytime you guys have something that you need to throw out there will always be a spot available for you over here. Thank Joel. I'll try and make sure I thank him myself for all the clips that he sent. And, man, we'll see you in a month.
Keep up the good work. We'll see you at the racetrack.
Look forward to it. Take care. Thanks, man. Holy moly. I am so fortunate to be able to have these kinds of people in my world. Again, super thanks to Adam Ross. He and Dave Bradley, Todd Lewis, Joel, Clinton Jeffrey all do a great job within our series. We'll be back again here next week. I'm going to try and spend a bit of time next week talking a bit more about torque instead of racing, and hopefully you'll join us.